Good evening. Welcome to Small Town. I'm Bob Spinozzi. Extraordinary athletic recognition can be expressed by either retiring a player's number or by inducting that player into a Hall of Fame. Well, on today's show, we're going to find out how a local dentist and sports enthusiast spearheaded an effort to help establish what will now be the Littleton High School Sports Hall of Fame. It's really my pleasure to have with me today that dentist, Craig Gruskovsky, along with Sheila Kish and Ed Hunt. They're all board members to the new Hall of Fame, and all three are Littleton residents and former school athletes. And it's very fitting that we're doing today's show from our studio, because it just happens to be in the very location where the gymnasium and auditorium were situated when our current Shattuck Street town offices was the school. So without further ado, let's get the ball rolling and start the show. Craig, Sheila, Ed, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you, Bob. Thank
you. And the Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame. You're the chairman, Craig. Why don't you get us going and tell us how this whole thing got started?
Yeah, Bob, well, thank you. Before I begin, I'd like to personally thank you, Bob, and the Littleton Community TV for the opportunity to introduce the Littleton High School Hall of Fame to our community. And also, Bob, I'd like to mention to you that I have watched your shows for many, many years, and I truly am a fan of your programs. So I'd like to thank you for that as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
The notion of the Hall of Fame started several years ago when I was having a discussion with the superintendent of schools at the time at the annual Thanksgiving Day breakfast. He asked if I would be interested in investigating the formation of a Hall of Fame in Littleton and report my findings to the Littleton School Committee. At that point, I consulted with Ed Hunt, who is a longtime resident and athlete here in Littleton. And Ed and I inquired with neighboring communities having established Hall of Fames in high schools. In our research, it was noted that all these organizations were separate entities and were governed by their own set of bylaws. They had a board of directors that made their own decisions and were a self-funded charitable organization. The purpose of the Hall of Fame was to recognize those outstanding individuals who made a significant contribution to athletics at the high school level. At this point, Ed and I reported to the school committee on our findings, and the school committee gave their blessing and encouraged the organization to go forward. At that point, a board of directors were formed, bylaws, general criteria, guidelines, as well as the nomination process were created. And now I'd like to turn it over to Ed, who will describe the nomination process.
The forms for the nomination are available through the Littleton Public School online. That's www.littletonps.org. Click on the athletics link, then click on the Hall of Fame link. The forms are also available at the town library, at Donlands Supermarket, or by contacting me. My number is 978-486-3783. I'd be happy to send you out a copy of the nomination form and answer any questions on it. A letter of recommendation from the person making the nomination must be included. In addition to the official form and the letter of recommendation, the following materials should be submitted for an individual or team's consideration. Other letters of support from appropriate individuals who can validate or substantiate information related to the high school career and or contributions of the nominee. Other supporting materials including newspaper articles, photographs, certificates, historical records, letters, or film footage should also be supplied, and if possible, a photograph suitable for reproduction should be included. The deadline for these nominations is June 15th. They should be sent to the Athletic Hall of Fame, P.O. Box 933. The inductees will be notified in September, and there will be a ceremony in the fall.
Okay, very good. Now, the application form, which I happen to have a copy here, but Sheila, you're going to tell us about a very unique design on the application itself.
I am. Craig knew of a young man in town who his hobby is drawing, and so he contacted him and asked him if he wouldn't mind making a design for our nomination form, and Ryan Donlin designed the tiger, all hand-drawn by him. And when you pick up a nomination form, if you look past the words, you will see the Littleton tiger on the back.
That looks fantastic,
yes,
doesn't it?
Does.
Very professional.
Great job.
Very
Great job.
professionally done. Okay. Now, Craig, if my math is correct, there are 8 board members, 1, 2, 3. We have 5 more board members that we have to identify, if you could do that for us.
Right. In addition to Sheila and Ed, we have Mike Lynn on our board, who is the present athletic director at Littleton High School. He was also an alumnus of Littleton. David Kerrigan, who's an alumnus of Littleton High School. He is also an attorney who did a lot of our legal consulting on the formation of the documents that we have presented. Shannon Webster, who is a former English teacher here in Littleton for many, many years. Mark Crory, who I believe you know.
A little bit.
Is also an alumni. And Steve Gentili, who is an active member of Littleton Youth Sports, who sits on the board as well.
Okay, that's fantastic. Is there a period of time that the board members serve? Or?
Yes, Bob, the term is for 3 years, at which time, if they choose not to renew their position on the board, we can then replace them. We do have a set of bylaws. At this point in time, we do have 8 members, but that can change at any time. It's at least 8 board members that we have, so there's room for more as the organization grows.
Okay, that's great. All right, now let's get a little bit specific here. The Hall of Fame, rather, has established 4 separate categories for induction. You have athlete, coach, team, and contributor. So let's get into the criteria to be eligible. Craig, why don't you start and tell us about the criteria necessary for athlete.
Okay. Before I begin, Bob, I would like to make the point that the person who is nominating, the person being nominated does not necessarily have to be a person who's alive. It can be a person who is deceased. So I want to clarify that point. We do have a portion in our application that asks if the person is deceased or not. But the athlete category, the athlete will become eligible after 5 years of graduating from Littleton High School. The athlete must have made an outstanding contribution in his or her sport or sports, that being holding of a school record, winner of a district or state championship, recognized for an award or an honor, or have notable postgraduate achievement. The athlete should also have exemplified high character, be a positive role model, and emulated by current and future students. As Ed mentioned earlier, I want to reference the point that we would definitely like to have the recommendation letter from the person nominating, along with any supporting material, newspaper articles, letters, and a photograph. The recent entries that I have received up to this date, they have not included that information, and we would definitely like to have that supporting
Okay,
material.
we want to be specific on that.
Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned 2 great points. outstanding contribution, high character. You know, it's not all about statistics or being a natural athlete. You know, there are other intangible things and other things that go into making someone a really, really great athlete. Absolutely. So Sheila, why don't you give us the criteria for team?
So a team needs to, after 5 years of their outstanding achievement, they are eligible for nomination. They can be nominated because they were division or sectional champions, league or state champions. They could even have been runner-up. They also could be nominated because of consecutive years of having outstanding records. And another possibility that we look at for an outstanding team is maybe they had a special award or acknowledgement. For example, maybe a sportsmanship award from the MIAA, which would acknowledge them to be above and beyond just, like you said, statistics, that they went that one step further and showed good sportsmanship.
Right.
So.
You know, you and I were talking about softball a little bit before we went on the air here, and I was in the website a couple days ago, and I just happened to notice that the softball team won the division. It was 5 or 6 years in a row, somewhere in the middle 90s to the end of the 90s. What an incredible accomplishment, my goodness.
That is a big run.
And you know, another thing too is we don't have to go back more than 6 months to find a great team.
Right.
The Littleton Tigers. Listen to these accomplishments. 11 wins, 2 losses. The first 11-win season in school history. Now, I read that they averaged over 30 points a game and held their opponents to 12 points a game. There were 2 shutouts, 3 games where they gave up only 6 points. They played in the school's first Super Bowl at Westfield State and lost the heartbreaker to Putnam Tech 24-21. So in 5 years, I think we're going to hear a lot about that team, in earnest. Ed, let's review the criteria for coach, and I know that you have some other observations that you want to make as well.
Right, Bob. Coaches become eligible after 5 years of retirement from the Littleton High School coaching staff. Coach must have had at least 3 years of service coaching at Littleton High School. The coach must have made an outstanding contribution to the athletic program at Littleton High. An example, leading a team to league, regional, or state recognition. Or introducing and building a particular athletic program at Littleton High School. Another is longevity of service to the athletic program, or an outstanding win-loss record. I just had a couple other thoughts on it, that you can look at the coaching, and he's supposed to talk about the fundamentals of the sport and build a winning team. But I think there's more to it than that. These coaches that we've had have been tremendous coaches. I think they've brought a lot of character to the boys and girls, and I think they've left them with a lot of values that they take with them through the rest of their lives, that they use in every day of their adult life. So I wanted to just pass that along.
Okay, that's great. And guys, Sheila was a player, and now she's a coach. Tell us about that.
Well, at the moment I'm coaching youth lacrosse and have started a lacrosse program for girls at the high school. And for the past several years I've coached field hockey under Diane Crory, who has been a field hockey coach for quite some time now. And I also coached middle school field hockey for a little while too.
Okay.
So,
As well as being a teacher, she's quite accomplished.
As well as being a teacher.
Quite accomplished.
And youth basketball. I'm involved in youth basketball.
What do you have the time?
I don't.
Craig, contributor, very interesting category. Can you give us a couple examples?
Well, when we were formulating, our general criteria and guidelines, we thought that as we all played sports in high school, that there were always those unsung heroes, could we say, on the sidelines, whether they be parents, friends, community members that gave of themselves unselfishly. And we felt that, these individuals, should be honored and should be a part of this program, as it's important to have those individuals in any athletic program.
Okay. Sheila, are these trophies or plaques now, and whichever they are, will they be on display at the high school?
Yes, they will, and they're plaques that will actually be displayed. If you walk into the Littleton High School, there's a whole display of trophies.
Yes.
And if you look in between each section are these probably about 1.5 foot long dividers, and plaques will be on those. As each plaque comes in, we just plug it onto the wall.
Okay, now, you know, I did see that trophy case, and it's absolutely filled with awards.
It is.
Incredible accomplishment for a small school system, let's face it. Now, Sheila, your father, Jim McKenna, was athletic director here for many years. So I'm sure he saw a lot of those awards being presented.
He did. He saw a lot of those awards, and he's very proud of them because he backed those coaches up for those teams, and he picked the coaches that would be coaching those teams, and a lot of those teams went on to great victories.
Yeah, that's a great story. Now, Ed, when you played sports at Littleton High School, there were 3 sports: baseball, softball, and basketball.
Right. That goes back 56 years. I graduated in '53, and the high school had less than 100 students. There were actually 20 kids in my class. But I played baseball and basketball for my sophomore, junior, and senior year. And I dug out my yearbook and took a look at the pictures, and we had 10 players that made up the baseball team and 10 that made up the basketball team. Despite our size and the size of the school, we always did well. We were always very competitive. In my senior year, the baseball team came in 2nd place in the league, and they came in 3rd place. The basketball team came in 2nd place. The basketball team played at the end of the season in the small schools tourney and the Townsend tournament, and both tournaments they made it to the semifinals and were beaten by the team that ultimately won both tournaments.
When did football come along? Can you recall?
Well, Sheila, probably you know that with your dad. I think your dad
It was in the
started
60s, I believe, somewhere.
1964. We just had this conversation. My dad was over Sunday, and 1964.
Okay.
Again, I said we were one of the smallest schools in the league, playing towns like Acton, Westford, Ayr, and we were always competitive. And I think that this Hall of Fame program has been long overdue. I think that the high school program has just been fantastic ever since I started, and I want to thank Craig for starting it. I think it's going to enhance the program that much more.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for making me aware of it. I wasn't even aware of high school sports Hall of Fames until you asked me to do this program with you today. And I went into the website. I found one for the Hall of Fame site for Maynard, for Concord, for Acton. Incredible. And but think, 3 sports now, and look how many sports we have now. It would take me 5 minutes probably to name them all, but they're all here on the application.
Probably 13 there, I think.
More than that,
More than that.
Especially when you factor in the fact that many of them have the same sport for boys
and girls, right?
Girls, so.
Right.
But you know, I want to mention something as an aside. It was an interesting observation that John Hathaway made to me. Now, this old site here, the gym, was constructed in 1937. Now, there's a picture in the Historical Society of the Littleton High School basketball team that goes back to 1933. And John said that they had to have been playing back then in the old town hall. There was a facility there to play basketball. And of course, you're from town. Unfortunately, We all know about the old town hall burning down somewhere in the 1950s, I believe, 1958 or something like that. But see how things were back then. Incredible.
Hard to believe.
Sheila, Craig, what sports did you play in high school?
You go.
I played football my 4 years.
You look like you could probably still play. You look like you're in good shape there.
Well,
is it the
probably,
shirt? Is it the shirt that's kind of?
The only thing I could do today is run the water, and that's about it. I played a little bit of basketball, but I primarily focused on football. And when I was a sophomore, we were given a universal weight training set, which was in the upper balcony of the old gymnasium. So I basically weightlifted on my off season. So
okay.
I stuck to really one sport.
Okay. Sheila?
I played 4 years of field hockey and 2 years of basketball.
If I could just make a comment on the weightlifting, that was an effort made by the All Sport Booster Club.
That's right. That's right.
I was on the
You're talking about this very universal machine?
The universal machine. And I know that it made a tremendous difference in the training program for the athletes, for the football players.
Especially.
It was a big addition to the school.
Right.
Well, let's go over the deadlines and where to drop this application off again. And again, I believe you said the deadline was June 15th, and the people who are going to be the first inductees are going to be notified sometime in the fall. Can you go over that one more time?
Sure. Yes, as you go onto the website, which Ed mentioned earlier, there is this nomination form itself that one can hit the representative key in order to download it. And it is that form that is due June 15th. And I would, again, remind those people who are nominating to browse at the guideline section, which is on that same web page just below, because this has the additional information on it that we had mentioned earlier. These forms, yes, are due June 15th, and as Ed mentioned, the address to mail them to is the Hall of Fame Board, P.O. Box 933, Littleton, Mass. 01460.
Okay. Any final thoughts? Any coaches that jump out at you that influenced you in your life? I know that my football coach in my high school in Pennsylvania scared the heck out of me. I remember that much, but boy, he was really helpful for me later on in life.
Well, I played football in college, and it was a small Catholic school. The name of the school was Stonehill. And I was just very impressed when I went to Stonehill on the quality of coaching that I had when I was in high school. As a matter of fact, my high school coaching was far better than my college coaching. And that always stood out in my mind.
Okay.
And even today, what was instilled in me when I was a young man in high school still gets me through my days today, even after doing those tough root canals, Bob.
Any other final thoughts from either of you?
I would go back again to the 56 years ago, and the name Bob Cousins, very familiar name in town. He did an awful lot for the kids, but he's the one coach that I think I got my values from. He did a tremendous job. He coached baseball and basketball in my junior year, but he also started up the league during the summer for the kids. We had nothing at that point, and he went on for years with the Littleton Hornets. And actually, I think he started the whole league and got the other towns, and it just went on, and we had tremendous years with him. But again, I feel I'm a better person for having been coached by Bob Cousins. And if you ask any of the players today that played for him, I think they will tell you the same thing, that they're a better person because of Bob Cousins.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much. And you know, you're going to have great luck this first year, and I'm looking forward to seeing this thing. Isn't it great starting something like this?
It truly is. As a matter of
and
fact,
now you're going to watch it develop. And
as a matter of fact, you know, this would not have taken place if it wasn't for the volunteer efforts of these individuals, as well as the other board members that I mentioned earlier. An awful lot of work has been done up to this point. I think, Ed, this is 3 years in the makings now. And as I said, each and every one of us has participated equally, and I personally like to thank each and every one of them. And I do truly hope that the community gets involved. They make nominations, not just one but several, in that it is a success.
okay. Well, thank you again so much. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.